The Seder takes us back to events that occurred more than 3,000 years ago. That just touches me so deeply. And it's a little strange that this isn't actually the first night. Usually I do this Seder, which is Wednesday night, because then we would know people all over the world are doing the same ritual. But we know people are getting ready for it right now. It's a celebration of the liberation of a people from oppression. So we know we still need a lot. We would like to be able to celebrate a lot more. Jews were slaves in Mitzrayim. We say Mitzrayim, not Egypt. We say Mitzrayim, which means the narrow place, the place that squeezes the life out of a human soul and body. So it's not just the literal history to me, but also the metaphorical one, what squeezes the life out of us. So we're going to do a lot of inner thinking as well as reflecting and remembering. Today we do remember what it is to be enslaved, and we re-experience the joy of liberation. We're supposed to each feel as though we were actually a slave back then. So that's part of the tradition why we share these stories. May we embrace this tradition with an intention to move beyond commemoration into renewal and transformation. Let us each find resolve to become a part of the liberation of our world. And so we must each ask ourselves, what is mine to do?
Excellent.
So that's a really important thing for us to all be thinking about. So I always like to at least get our voices in. And so we have quite a few people in our room. So maybe we'll just have you say in the chat, have you ever been to a Seder before? So is this your first? You've been to many? Just write in the chat. So since I was a child, I see a first Seder, a third, another first, many since 18, and many of those were with me. But a lot of first timers, how wonderful. So those of you who have been to many, there's some that are very traditional. There's something, the Haggadah means the order. So there's a certain order of things, but there's a million variations on it. And this particular Haggadah has evolved out of a group of friends and my cut and pasting over the years and then finally making it digital. So that's the result of what you're seeing. So we'll hear our voices in a minute as we each read. So I'm going to ask Jacqueline to start right under those pretty leaves. Would you read that next paragraph, please?
Egypt, or Mizraim in Hebrew, means the place of constriction and limitations. Serves as a symbol for all those enslaved we meet. Internal patterns of belief and stuck places, as well as external restrictions. The way out of Mizraim is through compassion. Just?
Chesed.
Chesed, yeah, chesed, you have to go. And that means kindness, compassion.
Through embracing that which we have been taught to scorn within ourselves and others, and through attempting to understand those who seem very different from us. There's a vital message we can take from our ancestors, the ancient slaves, who are bonded by common vision of social transformation. The world can be changed. We can be healed. Even in the violence in Syria and India, the civil unrest in Sudan, the Congo, and Hong Kong, the starving children in Yemen, the children held in cages in the United States, the destroyed mosques in China, the ongoing suffering in Israel and Palestine, the indigenous land still being snatched in northern BC, the gay and trans people who've had to lock their true selves away in order to be safe and accepted, the destruction of our planet, and even the coronavirus.
Let's just take a big breath and breathe all that in. And it just always breaks my heart that every year there are so many things that we can update and add into that. And we remember as we enter this holiday the words of the psalmist, V'ches shalom v'radfehu, seek peace and pursue it. So Eloisha, would you please read the next?
If people are exploited and oppressed anywhere, then nowhere are people really free. The Seder is a time to think of the liberation of all people and Tikkun Olam, repairing the world.
I'm sorry, I'll just, it's Tikkun Olam.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This includes our whole selves. If the feminine is in exile from the masculine part of ourselves, the 1% from the 99%, Black people from white people, so we are in exile from our promised land and the divine. Today, we remember all the people of all liberation, struggles, and all the struggles we must endure for our whole selves. It is not enough to remember. We must ourselves enter the story and make it our own to feel the pain and degradation, and then eventually the hope that defeats the pain.
Thank you. Karen, would you read the next 3 little bits?
Okay. We are taught that in every generation, all of us are obliged to regard ourselves as if we ourselves went forth from the land of Egypt. This practice helps us awaken to and savor the sweetness of freedom. We celebrate and recommit to the struggle for all mankind. What struggles for liberation from narrow places come to mind today?
So let's pause there, and if a few people want to share, just unmute yourself and share what struggles come to mind to you, either personally or that you're thinking of people in the world today. Oh, it's so nice to see a whole family. Well, Dustin, Finn, and the rest of you. So any struggles come to your mind?
Refugees waiting to leave the camps.
Mm.
We have one in Jordan who's been waiting for 4 years to come. Yeah.
Thank you,
And
Sal.
now with the coronavirus once more.
Oh,
You know.
really horrifying.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think of all the people in the United States in what we call detention centers. They're not criminals at all. They're just awaiting to know what their destiny is, and they're held in horrible conditions. And it's really frightening right now with the virus.
Yeah.
Anyone else? I mean, in a way, all of us on this whole planet right now, that some of us are lucky. It's hard. I can't really say I'm shut in. I have a lovely home, thank God. I have a view, but everyone is enclosed, staying where they live, and many are not so fortunate. Yeah. Anything else before we go on that someone wants to add?
I would say it's freeing ourselves from fear. That's a big one I hear from a lot of people. Anxiety and fear.
Mm-hmm.
They feel trapped in that. So freeing ourselves from that.
So unfortunately, it was breaking up a little, but I think I heard you say that fear. So it's the inner lack of freedom that we feel when we get clutched by fear, of which there's so many things for us to feel fearful about right now. So I hope I got that right. I'm not sure why the transmission was a little strange, but thank you, Sukhvinder. Sukhvinder, hope I said it right. Anyone else? It's nice just to remember to take a look around this beautiful room as though we're at a big, huge table. Laura, Rabbi Laura, please.
People who are homeless, people who are used to abundance now facing loss of income and great uncertainty. For now, animals and people still suffering from environmental destruction, people imprisoned for petty crimes who are in increasingly unsafe conditions.
Thank you. So it's a lot of heaviness, and it's part of our job tonight to be with that, to experience that, and to be moved to compassion for it. So let's continue, Kathy, and go back to our text. We say, may the world come to see the time when the whole human family can celebrate and enjoy the sanctity of all life. And I have to name the artists. Some of these beautiful drawings are from Walden Atkins here in Seattle. He's a wonderful artist. So now we're going to do the candle lighting. So if you have a candle in your house, we could all light the candles at the same time. I have some back here. But before we do that, let's read this beautiful saying. Let's all say this together. This where it starts with blessed. Let's say it together. I don't know how it'll work on Zoom, but we'll see. So unmute if you want. At least Kathy and I, yeah. Blessed is the match consumed in igniting flames. Blessed is the flame that flared
in the secret places of the heart.
Blessed
Blessed
are
are the hearts with strength to throb
their
the
last beat in dignity. Blessed
is the match consumed in the igniting
flames. This always brings tears to my eye. Hannah Senesh was a very young woman who worked for the underground during the time of the Holocaust, and she was executed. So may the flame of the light that we're going to light right now give us warmth and connection to one another. So we know we are physically distant, but we are emotionally, relationally connected, all of us together. So bring it down a little bit. Kathy, we have to see the next part before we strike. Yeah. So we'll, why don't, Rabbi, would you do the sanctify the, would you be willing? Okay.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel yom tov.
Amen.
Amen. And the translation is there. Maggie, would you read the translation? Praised be, we can't hear you though. You have to get off mute and start again on praised.
Okay. Praised be the Spirit of the universe who has given us the commandments and the goodness of lighting the lights. Praised be the light of the world that has kept us in life and sustained us and enabled us to reach this season. Blessed are you, Holy One of Being, Spirit of the universe, who gives us light, that we may become a light for peace and freedom for all people.
Yeah, freedom for all people. So let's light. We light 2 candles. I really don't know why, but we always light 2 candles for a holiday or a Shabbat. And then we bring the light into our eyes usually, and then say the prayer. But we have said the prayer. So, and if we all knew it, I'd have us sing Hine Matov. I don't know, Rabbi, would you feel inspired? Do you like to sing? To sing just a short part of that?
I will sing with you.
And so does Charles. So we'll do it together, and Charles will pick the tune.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Hine matov Hine matov uvanayim shevet achim gam Hine matov shevet achim gam yachad Hine matov shevet achim gam yachad Hine matov uvanayim shevet achim gam yachad.
Thank you. I was able to sing full out and you didn't have to hear my terrible voice. So for those of us who know these songs, these are just melodies that like get to be deep in your bones, deep in your body. So it feels really special to sing that how good it is for brothers and sisters to dwell as one. So as we look around, we feel that connection that we're all sharing this together. Let's see, where are we? Is it Charles who's with Rabbi Laura? Charles, would you read the next part, please?
We are descended from slaves, from people who staged the first successful slave rebellion in recorded history. Ever since, our people have kept alive the story of liberation and the consciousness that cruelty and oppression are not inevitable facts of life, but conditions which can be changed. The Exodus message is revolutionary. The way the world has been is not the way it has to be. Everything can change once we recognize that the creative force who created the world also creates the possibility of transformation and liberation.
May it be so.
May it be so.
May it be so.
May we dedicate ourselves to helping the world now transform and to the abolition of all forms of tyranny and injustice.
May we be ever more vigilant in this time when people, you know, it's emergency, they're grabbing more power. We have to really pay attention. So now, some of you have a glass of water, and we call this Miriam's cup. So this is a new tradition, not in the original traditions. Rabbi, would you please read about Miriam's cup?
Miriam stars in the Exodus story. However, like all women in the Bible, her significance has been eclipsed, her story abridged. Today, we recognize her role as prophetess, and we ask that she symbolize the true power of all the women who have shaped our history and given us life. Miriam is associated with water from the beginning of the story to its end. She is the one who put baby Moses in the Nile River to save his life. She is the one who led the women in dance and song after crossing the Red Sea. According to legend, a well of water accompanied the Israelites on their journey in the desert. This miraculous well was provided to honor Miriam's bravery and devotion to her community. The well could be summoned by the gentle sound of her voice. Today, we fill Miriam's cup to remind us that Miriam is present with us always. She is a part in each of us that provides healing, inspiration, and wisdom. She and her waters sustain us as we participate in the healing of the world. She reminds us to care for the rivers and streams and the life-giving forces of pure water.
And let's say this all together. May all people everywhere
have access to the water of life. Let not water be held over people to oppression.
And you may sip the water. Miriam and the Miriam in us. Dave.
Isn't this your chant?
This is your chance, Dave.
Oops.
Okay.
I see Dave and Sally together, so Dave,
Okay.
why?
Why do we drink 4 cups of wine or grape juice? There are many explanations for this custom. Some have said they represent the 4 corners of the earth because freedom should reign everywhere, or the 4 seasons of the year because freedom must be guarded at all times, or the 4, I can't read it, it's hidden bit, empires that oppressed us in the days of old, because tyranny must, as did these empires, before the world can be, I cannot see it, it's behind the pictures.
If you take your cursor by the pictures of everybody on the side, you could move it one way or the other.
Okay, there we go. Got it, thank
Oh,
you.
better.
Yeah, or the four empires that oppressed us in the days of old, because tyranny must pass away, as did these empires, before the world can be free. Above all, they stand for God's four promises of redemption, recorded in the story of the liberation of the Israelites from Egyptian bondage.
So I'm going to read the thing on the left, and then all of you read the sentence on the right. The Lord, this is what the Lord had said. I will bring you out.
I will help
you birth your
awareness.
I will deliver you.
I will help you midwife your potential.
I will redeem you.
I will free you to live your highest purpose.
I will take you to be my people.
I am with you always.
This is the one aspect of Zoom. It's not instantaneous, so it's a little jumbled, but we're still together in our talking.
Yes.
So Dave, did you want to pass? It's always okay to pass. Did you want to pass, or do you want to read once again?
Yeah. Once again, may we dedicate ourselves to the abolition of all forms of tyranny and injustice. We will drink 4 cups of wine or grape juice today to represent a series of actions with deep intention for economic, political, intellectual, and spiritual freedom.
Great. So we're going to start with the first cup. So if I would personally, I always drink wine, and I think that's why I got my children to enjoy the Seder. They got their first sips of wine at the Seder, but it's fine to use grape juice. And we are going to drink a lot, so watch yourself, but nobody has to drive home. So we're not going to, I mean, it's okay if you sip it. I'm not all that fussy about it, but we haven't said the prayer officially yet. So as we sip, this first cup is standing for the cup of security and freedom. And as we sip this cup, the symbol of joy, we acknowledge the power and strength of the forces of the universe, and we praise God in the traditional words of the Kiddush, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen, which means praise be you, O Spirit of the universe, who creates the fruit of the vine. L'chaim. Tastes nice. A friend of mine would always say, yes, we bless the wine because it reminds us to have a good time. All right, Sandy, would you please read the next paragraph?
As the Talmud says, a person who does not own a piece of land is not a secure person. We raise the first cup in acknowledgement of the legitimate desires of each people to create a secure life, a life free from fear, secure in the knowledge that they have a land from which they cannot be exiled. And we recall that ultimate freedom is a state of mind available no matter what one might experience.
So I guess I was a little out of order and anxious, but it's okay because we had blessed it to drink it. Sukin, I don't know how to say it. How do you say it?
Sukhvinder.
Great. Let's hope your connection's better. Please read this wonderful quote from Viktor Frankl.
We who lived in the concentration camps can remember the men who walked through the huts comforting others, giving away their last piece of bread. They may have been few in number, but they offer sufficient proof that everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way.
Yes.
Yeah, boy, as I hear that with the situation we're all in, which for many of us, for me, certainly it's the most grave circumstance I've ever directly experienced. So how will I show up? How will you show up? We can't control anything else, but we can control that. You know, are we going to go and steal somebody's toilet paper, or are we going to help our neighbors when we can? So this is really the time. So one of the next things in the order of the Seder means order, is urchatz. but you'll see is it urchatz or urchatz? I think it's urchatz. Yeah. So we do it a little differently. So Sheila, would you please read that?
Traditionally, this is the prayer said over the ritual washing of the hands as a symbolic act of purification. This year, this ritual holds special significance as we all do our part to protect ourselves and those around us from becoming sick from this COVID-19 virus. Please take a moment to wash your hands now and say a blessing for the doctors and nurses around the world who are risking their lives every day to care for us during this global pandemic.
And those are Kathy's beautiful words that she added. So I think it is a time you might want to take a little break, move your body. If you want to go wash your hands, that is a good thing. Or at least just get up and stretch.
One of my favorite things about the Seder is it changes every year, depending on what happens over that year. And so I love that it gets updated and you see how the story comes alive for us now.
Yeah, because in previous years, we've actually said, because often it was something about how often we think women are unclean, and in protest of that, we often do not wash our hands. But this year, we should wash our hands.
Everybody wash your hands.
Yeah. Of course, I didn't do it accurately because you're supposed to. I should be still scrubbing if I had done it really. We've all learned a lot about washing our hands, I think, this year.
True.
So I think everyone's back. Maybe Shauna, we're waiting for. Who else are we waiting for? Yeah, I think people are back. Oh, Laura will be back shortly. But it's time now, we're going to start to look at this Seder plate. So I think, can you see mine?
I can't see yours.
Can't see mine. How? Let's see.
There we go. Beautiful.
Okay, there it is. So this is a kind of a traditional Seder plate. Well, the orange is not there, but we'll talk later why we have it there. But we're ready right now to talk about the karpas, which is the greens. And usually I would have parsley, but it's hard to, I don't go to the store, and I didn't have any parsley, so I picked some dandelion greens from my backyard. And you could use, many different greens to talk to us about the karpas, because the Jewish calendar follows the season. Even though it's a lunar calendar that doesn't match our own, it always manages to stick with the season every 7 years? I think there's an extra month unlike the Muslim calendar that changes all year round and is also a lunar calendar. Ours gets reset every few years by this extra month that shows up, so that because the holidays are tied to the season. So Passover is always in the springtime. And in fact, Easter, for Christians who follow Easter, is connected, because the Last Supper, of course, of Christ was a Seder dinner. So let's see, where are we now? It is time to hear from Sheila. Would you please read about the karpas?
The karpas, spring greens, is a symbol of springtime and the miracle of nature's renewal. It signifies the blossoming and freshness of our own lives. At this season, when the earth is reborn, we renew our faith in a world where freedom and justice will prevail. The salt water into which the karpas is dipped reminds us of the tears shed by the oppressed. The salt water also represents the ocean, birthplace of all life on earth, while the tender greens reflect the life-giving partnership of soil and sun. These remind us how our struggle for wholeness extends to our planet. It is an intricate web of life, and it is our responsibility to care for it.
So now we can say a prayer, and if you have a little bowl of salt water, so if we were all at a big table together, there'd be little bowls of salt water and an extra dish of cut up parsley or whatever, and you'd each get a piece. So if you have that, you can join us, and if you're not, that's fine. But we'll say the prayer, and then maybe Sheila can finish the translation while we'll each dip twice and enjoy our greens. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hadama. You may start to recognize the words are all the same. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri, and then there's a special word for what exactly that time you're blessing. And it's part of our Jewish tradition. You bless everything. I think there's hundreds every day if you're really observant. You start in the morning by blessing the fact that you're still alive. And when you go to the bathroom, there's a blessing that you have an outlet to allow yourself to go to the bathroom. There's a blessing for everything. So right now, that's the blessing for the greens. Sheila, would you please read the...
Praise are you, O Spirit of the universe, that creates the fruit of the earth. Blessed is the forest of life, the strength of farm workers that bring forth the fruits and vegetables from our bountiful earth.
So we take poetic license with our translations. Dip in the salt water twice, and then enjoy some karpas. Now, and at my table, by now, everyone if it was really the dinner, we'd be getting hungry. So we often also have little small new potatoes. I learned this from a friend from part of Europe where they would do this, and we dip the potato so you get a little snack. Oh, and a little plain potato never tasted so good. So now we're going to start to talk about the matzah. And I have here 3 pieces of matzah, because one is going to become something we're going to learn about, the afikomen. So, yeah, so we break, is it the middle one that we break off? Yeah, so I break the middle one. Well, that was very puny. This is gluten-free matzah. It's kind of weird. So, okay, here's a better. And then I would wrap it in a cloth. Usually it'd be a white linen cloth, but red is okay. And what we now do is we'll talk about it. I'd hide it, and the kids get to look later. So you might want to do this ritual later if you'd like. We obviously can't do it all together, but somebody goes and hides it somewhere, and when the child, well, I think it's going to be explained. So let's see. On perfect, because you've got kids there. So is that Doralee? Would you read about this? Or whoever in that group is literate may read. If one of the kids can read, that's awesome.
One of you want to read? You want to read it?
I'll read it.
Okay, Beckley's going to read a part of it.
Wonderful.
Now we break the matzah and conceal part of it to be used later as
it's the
afikomen or dessert. Afikomen comes from the Greek word meaning gift. Traditionally, the afikomen is hidden, and before the Seder can be completed, the children must find it and present it to the adults, who must bargain to get it back by exchanging it for a treat.
Nice. Very exciting. So there's a little special treat. And over the years, I've learned I don't want to just reward the one person who found it, but they're the one who gets like a bag of treats, and they get to hand it out to everybody. So that's how we do it in my family. But it could be fun if you want to do this in your family. After the meal, somebody hide it and see who finds it. What do you think? Becky and Doralee? Yeah, or I'm not sure who's who, but
this is Finn and this is Dustin.
No, I'm actually Becky.
Oh, stop.
All I know is you're definitely not as isolated as I am.
You're right.
Family. Look at you, cousin. Just, oh, cuddle family. We can all feel that. Those of us who have no one to cuddle with. That's so sweet.
Oh, we extend our cuddles to you, Susan.
Thank you. Okay, who next in your family? So your family's going to do this whole section. You decide who reads what.
Great. I'll read the next chunk. This year, since we are all celebrating in our respective homes, our children sadly cannot go in search of the Afikomen together. Although if you'd like to hide either the Afikomen or a cracker for your children to find during a meal, please feel free to do so. Once they've found it and brought it back to you, you can exchange it for a treat. Yet the rest of us can still set the Afikomen aside to enjoy it together at the end. This year, it serves as a sign of hope for the joy that is yet to come, the happiness and celebratory time together that awaits us on the other side of this meal, of this pandemic.
Again, beautiful poetic words from our beloved Kathy.
Thank you, Kathy.
Even though we are separate, we can still say words together that join us with all those who are in need. With the wrongly imprisoned and the beggars in the street, we think of those who currently live in lands or camps where they cannot celebrate their holidays as free people. We imagine a world without hunger.
So I'm going to hold up the matzah, but it's really important that I open the door, and you could open your doors, but I've got one right here on my deck.
The door? With the matzah?
Everyone can hear me. This is a very significant part of our tradition as we hold up the matzah and we say, this is the bread of affliction, the poor bread. Behold the matzah, bread of poverty, which our ancestors ate in the land of Egypt. Let all who are hungry come and eat. Let all who are hungry come and eat. Let all who are needy come and celebrate the Passover. Let all who are in want share the hope of Passover. As we celebrate here, we join with people everywhere. Now we are still oppressed. Next year, may everyone be free.
Amen.
So let us say this again in unison. I suppose most of us could be maybe just one or two with mute off, but the rest of us are saying it on our own, but together. From Judy Chicago. So in unison. And then at least Kathy with me, somebody with me, okay. And then all that
has divided us shall merge.
And then
compassion will be wedded to power.
And then
softness will come to a world
that is
harsh and unkind.
And then both
men and women will be gentle.
And then
both women and men will be strong.
And then no person
will be subject to another's will.
And then all
will be rich and free and varied.
And then
the need of some
will
give away to the needs of the many.
And then
all share equally in the earth's abundance.
And then all
will care for the sick and the weak and the old.
And then
all will know the young.
And then
all will know life's creatures.
And then
all will live in harmony with each other and the earth.
And
then everywhere will be called
Eden again.
Makes me weep. Now it's storytelling time, and we get to the story of the Exodus. So, Carolyn, would you read this next paragraph?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Through story, we witness the telling of our spiritual unfolding. Every year in the spring, at the celebration of Passover, we retell the story of the Exodus. This is no ordinary history lesson. This is an enduring lesson in spiritual potential. The inner meaning of the Exodus story is celebrating the freedom of overcoming the ego and entering the promised land of our higher self. The outer meaning is committing to actively engage in tikkun olam, repairing the world.
Beautiful. And Greg, would you like to read this quote from Mahatma Gandhi?
When I despair, I remember that all through history, the ways of truth and love have always won. There have been tyrants and murderers, and for a time they can seem invincible, but in the end, they always fail. And that's what it looks like. It might say fall. I can't see, sorry.
Say fail.
Okay, they always fail. Think of it, always. Mahatma Gandhi.
Great. Shauna, would you please continue?
Sure. In the historical Exodus, the slaves arrived at the shore of the Red Sea, frightened, hopeless. One person, Nashon,
That's how.
Thank you. Thank you. Had the courage and faith to lead the way. He waded into the Red Sea, walking forward as the water covered first his ankles, then his knees, then his waist, and then up to his neck. But he didn't stop. The water lapped over his chin, even across his lips. Still, he continued as the water swallowed his nose. And finally, the sea parted and the Israelites crossed safely to freedom.
I don't know if you've ever seen that wonderful video of the first follower. You know, we have to really believe and take that step to make it happen. So continue reading, Shauna.
Who will be the Nakshons for our time? Ali Abu Awad comes to mind, or the courageous doctors and nurses and hospital workers stepping into the battle with the virus. Who else? Who will take those terrifying and courageous steps toward shalom?
So, should we send people into little breakouts? What do you think, Kathy, to talk about this and share what's going on for them, or just keep us all together and share a few right now? What do you think?
I think let's have them share now. Here, I will stop the share. And then, yeah, if folks here, I'll unmute you. And then if folks just want to share some other heroes of our time.
And anything else that's coming up for you right now, yeah.
I've been really happy with just ordinary average 6 who, as soon as the COVID virus was announced and isolation was announced, and they immediately started putting systems in place to feed those that are stuck in their homes, to help with seniors who are already having difficulty accessing services. So there wasn't even like a hesitation. It was all about, how do we do this? How do we do this in a way that's safe so that we're not sharing the virus, right? So there was a lot of effort in terms of protocols. And right now there's almost 2,000 meals every day that people are able to come in and pick up and take home. And then hundreds are dropped off at people's homes. And they've also been focusing on the truck drivers, because restaurants are closed, but we need those drivers for the supply chains, for the goods and the food that we're looking for. So there's a lot of just very quiet heroes that just went about and did their work. So.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Beautiful.
Excellent.
I just think, I put a little word out. We have something called neighborhood nets because I'm, I guess, elderly. It's really hard to accept that. And my kids don't want me going out, and my husband is in pretty frail health. He's very vulnerable, very vulnerable. So we totally isolated, and I don't go to the store, so I have to ask others for help. And so many people I don't even know will say, sure, I'll help you. So they are heroes too. Anyone else? Sandy?
What comes to mind is all the people who are at home and they are rallying resources to make masks, to provide them to first responders, nursing homes, people who are running short. I know my mom and her quilting guild have made several hundred at this point. to donate. And so in terms of the first responders, all of the doctors who are working the 16-hour days and sacrificing their health and their immune system out of the caring for the people, I just honor and bless them.
Paulina.
I feel very fortunate that I'm in a comfortable place, my beautiful apartment on Mercer Island, and I take walks every day, and people are friendlier than they've ever been. I walk up in the woods behind my home, and people grab their dogs before the dogs can jump on you. They make sure to maintain distance. They smile and wave. And there's a beautiful sense that we're all facing this together. And there's a lot of silver lining to this cloud.
Thank you. I also can't help but think of my beloved sister Lucy in India. May she be well and stay safe. She's helped start about 44 homes for women and children.
Wow.
So there's a couple thousand people under her care. And of course, not only do they care for them, those women and children and men, but they're bringing food out to the migrant workers who are in tents all around and have no access to anything. And when I think how hard it is for us, and I'm just terrified for my beloveds in India. So a lot of courage is called for us to all show up as a community, the beautiful way this community has, and Sister Lucy, and as individuals, the way our neighbors are and you are. So we are blessed. Let's go back to our Seder, to our Haggadah. Oh, there's this beautiful quote. Let's see, I'm losing my place now. Is it time for Paulina? No, where are we? Have you heard Paulina?
I haven't read. I'm happy to read this quote from Alexander Solzhenitsyn.
Yes.
If only there were evil people somewhere insidiously committing evil deeds, and it were necessary only to separate them from the rest of us and destroy them. But the line dividing good and evil cuts through the heart of every human being. And who is willing to destroy a piece of her own heart? That's, yeah.
Thank you.
Wow.
Well, we thought we'd have a little song break, right, Kathy? We'll see how this works.
So I think I got this set up. So here, let's let my people go, and let me make sure I'm sharing the sound. So I think this is gonna be loud enough that even if you're singing at home, it won't cut out. So let's try this.
I'm happy to sing.
Yeah, we're gonna sing.
Yeah, sing along. Here we go.
When Israel was in Egypt, oppressed so hard they could not stand, go down as with Egypt's land, tell all Pharaoh to let my people go.
Somehow the sound was a little funky. You might try for next time. There's a place, let's see, audio settings.
I tried it earlier. How did that sound for everyone once I muted some people?
I think because people were still singing along, it was cutting the audio out, that it might be good for all of us to be muted, and so we can just hear the audio of the track.
Okay. Right.
I'm going to mute everybody.
All right.
Okay. And now we'll listen to this next one. This is part of the 4 questions. We'll listen to this first and then we can read it.
First. So very traditionally, the 4 questions are asked, and you can see them here in English. Why don't we read them in English first so you'll know what you're listening to. So Paulina, why don't you continue and read those 4 questions? Whoops, you're on mute.
I got it.
There you go. I got it.
Why is this night different from all other nights? On all other nights, we may eat either unleavened or leavened bread, either leavened or unleavened bread. But on this night, we only eat unleavened bread. On all other nights, we eat all kinds of herbs. But on this night, we eat especially bitter herbs. On all other nights, we do not even once dip our herbs in any condiment. But on this night, we dip herbs twice. One herb in salt water and the bitter herbs in charoset. On all other nights, we eat either sitting or reclining, but on this night, we only recline.
So traditionally, we'd all have pillows and we would be reclining, but we're not doing that right now. So this is what we're going to hear now in this YouTube. And I think I confessed to some of you earlier, the first time I led a Seder, I didn't know how to do these, and my dentist children recorded it for me. So we'll listen to just part of this because it's repetitious, but it felt important for me to have you hear. Usually, traditionally, you'd have the youngest child in the circle who knew the questions to sing them, or all the children to sing them together. So we have some children's voices to sing to us, and we'll all be on mute. None of us will be singing along. We could go on. We heard the first question. They all sound similar, but it touches my heart that we got to hear that. So we also have, in the Jewish tradition, we call it a midrash, where you kind of riff off a story. And this is, it's the word Yisrael means strugglers with God. And so this is the Jewish tradition, to always be playing with the text and asking more questions. So this is a midrash on the 4 children asking these 4 questions. So let's see. I've lost track of where we are because you've all jumped around or in different places. Cynthia, have you read yet? Okay, so you be the participant and then we'll all answer. But why don't most of us stay, why don't we stay muted and just have Kathy be the participant we hear, okay? So only Cynthia and Kathy will be unmuted. But it says all, even though we're muted. All right, Cynthia.
I'm the participant?
Yes.
The isolated child asks, why should I be concerned with the rest of humanity?
And we answer, if you are only for yourself, what are you?
The naive child asks, when there is so much suffering and oppression in the world, how can I selfishly be concerned with myself and my family?
And we answer, if you are not for yourself, who will be for you?
The third child is so overwhelmed by the magnitude of the problem in the world
that she doesn't even know where to begin. And so she does nothing, not even ask.
And we tell her, it is not up to you to complete the task, but neither are you free to desist from it. If not now, when?
But the wise child asks, how can we take the steps that walk in peace, that climb towards peace?
This is the question with which we wrestle today. But there's a question that goes beyond today. For in each one of us lives all 4 children. Each of us bears in our own belly the angry one, the naive one, the frightened one, and the wise one. Which of these children shall we bring to birth? Only if we can deeply hear all 4 of them are we able to unearth any answers to the 4th question. Only then can we bring to birth a child, a people that is truly wise.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I've lost me to unmute me. Can you unmute me, Kathy?
I unmuted you. You're fine.
Okay, thank you. That's one of my, the words of Rabbi Hillel, that was riffing off of, if I'm not for myself, who will be, if not now, when? That whole saying is just a really guiding light. So, all right, so we've done the 4 questions. Now we're going to, and we'll learn through this story the answer to some of those questions. So we're going to start by learning about the plagues. Now let me see, Marcus, have you read? It's your turn, Marcus.
There you go, Marcus.
Unmute himself.
I unmuted him.
Oh, okay, perfect.
So I read this quote here. Those who profess
the plagues.
It was not easy to leave Egypt, of course. First, things had to be harder and harder, as we are now experiencing today. Greater suffering had to be endured. Plagues were sent as demonstrations to Pharaoh, but his heart was hardened, so the plagues grew more intense over time. Those who profess to favor freedom and yet deprecate agitation are men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. They want the ocean without the awful roar of its many waters. This struggle may be a moral one, or it may be physical, but it must be a struggle. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did and never will.
Wow, good, important words for us to keep in mind. All right, so shall we try this again and see how the music goes, and we can each be singing in our own spot with joy and pleasure, but we'll just have the voice of the recording. We'll see how it works.
Sure thing.
Kathy, when you're playing the video, could you put it back on the text so we can see the words?
Yes, no problem. Okay, okay. Oh, that was the wrong thing, sorry. There we go.
The reward of patience is patience.
Yes, thank you. Okay.
Go tell it on the mountain, over the hill, and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain, to let my people go. Who's that yonder dressed in red? Let my people go. Must be the children that Moses led. Let my people go. Who's that yonder dressed in red? Must be the children that Moses led. Go tell it on the mountain, to let my people go. Go tell it on the mountain, oh. people go. Who's that yonder dressed in black? Must be the hypocrites turning back. Go tell it on the mountain to let my people go. Tell it on the mountain, over the hill and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain to let my people go.
Beautiful. Thank you. Let me unmute you, Susan.
Okay, yes.
There you go.
Oh, I was just saying I had a great time singing, and I hope you did too. That was really spirit lifting. Before we now start to face the plagues. So let's see who you didn't mean to, but you jumped around my screen. So I'm trying to see who is left. Carrie, please read.
The river's waters were turned to blood, frogs covered the land, then rats, and then wild beasts. Cattle were stricken with disease, hail destroyed the crops, locusts devoured all that was left. Finally, darkness covered the land. Still, Pharaoh would not change. Only when the 10th plague, the death of the firstborn children, struck the people of Egypt, did Pharaoh decide to allow the children of Israel to leave. This year, the plagues hold even deeper meaning for us, as we ourselves are currently experiencing an 11th plague that has killed tens of thousands of people, infected countless others, and forced us all to separate ourselves physically from one another in order to stop its spread.
I was just going to interject. It's interesting. Some ecologists have studied the 10 plagues, and they believe that it's really showing what happens when a whole ecosystem collapses step by step. So there's some really scientific evidence behind those plagues that one would follow another in that way. And some are saying that this coronavirus is a reflection of some of the disruption to our ecosystem that we have created. Great, so let's see now. Gabrielle, would you continue to read, please?
In sorrow and now solidarity for those who are made to endure such horrors, we must spill 10 drops of wine or grape juice onto our plates. The drink makes our hearts glad, but the price of liberation in human suffering diminishes our joyousness.
So just before you finish reading, this is a time, so I've got a little thing to grip into, and I've got my wine glass that still has some wine, or you'd have grape juice in it, because in a minute we're gonna take a drop out.
Well, here, just below this, it's going to say to pour the second glass. So if Gabrielle finishes, then we can pour and then we'll be all set.
All right.
Tonight, we are reminded of the ability of our leaders to bring suffering upon the people, just as Pharaoh did to the children of Israel in Egypt. With each drop of drink spilled, we feel the pain of oppression and the hardship of liberation struggles. With compassion even for our enemies, our cup of joy cannot be full.
So this is where make sure, because before we drink this second glass, we're going to be removing some of it for these plagues. So have some juice or wine in your glass. We did wash our hands. And you got something, you'd have your plate in front of you or some kind of receptacle. Because as we say it, I just stick my pinky in and just drop it on. So each time you take out a drop. And we'll say the words in English together. So with each word, take out the drop and really feel the loss and the suffering with each of these plagues. Blood. And say the words with me, everyone. Frogs. Vermin. Beasts. Cattle disease. Boils. Hail. Locusts, darkness, slaying of the firstborn. So we would say them in Hebrew, but I think since most of you aren't familiar with the Hebrew, we'll just keep it at the English, but those are the traditional Hebrew words at the side. Let's see, who has not? Dad, would you like to read? That's Kathy's dad. Oops, do you want to read? We have to unmute you.
Oh, wait, let me unmute him.
I undid it.
There you are, Dad.
The plagues in our lives are not only sicknesses or clear acts of God, they also relate to how we enslave ourselves. There are so many modern day plagues that erode the safety, security, and freedom of the human community. These remind us that even as we enjoy personal and political freedoms, that our work in the world is not done.
So let's talk about some of the plagues that impact us today. We can all certainly start with COVID-19. May it not reach our homes, and may it pass over. But what other, you can unmute yourselves.
I just unmuted everybody. So now everyone, and I'm quickly going to do this so we can all share.
So just call out a plague, and for each one of those, we'll remove a drop of wine.
Missing and murdered Indigenous women.
Racism.
Addiction.
Climate change.
Inequality.
Children in cages.
Greed.
Hatred.
Outrage porn.
Anti-Semitism and Islamophobia.
People without health insurance.
Healthcare workers without masks.
Intimate partner violence.
Unemployment.
Homelessness.
Child abuse.
Exploitation of workers.
Those without clean water.
Many cancer patients.
The growing income divide of the 1%.
Lack of health care on reserves in Canada.
Maybe one or two more.
A warming planet.
The burning of the
Phobia and homophobia.
Transphobia.
All right. Let us return to our text. There will be happy moments coming. So we poured away many drops of wine or juice for the sorrows and evils of this world, and yet nearly a full cup remains. So we will lift our cups in praise to the one who fills our lives with an abundance of joy and goodness. We don't deny the reality of our plagues, but we also allow the blessings. So this, okay, I know I don't have green onions, but this is at home when we do this and sing Dayenu, we each take a scallion. Oh, she's got one. And we just flip it around at each other. So you can just, if you've got one, flip it against the screen and it just gets silly. To kind of move on from all that heaviness. So it's a fun time to wave them, part of your green onion if you have. Well, I have one.
Or parsley if you still have parsley.
Oh, we got parsley.
Or anything really.
Dandelion green. I've got a dandelion green. So we're gonna sing this song, Dayenu, which is a really classic part of it. Dayenu means it would have been enough. Dayenu, and I learned to think about that all of the time, like. That I have a house, my own home with a roof, Dayenu. So there's many things to say it would be enough. This song is being grateful to God for all the gifts that he gave the Jewish people in the beginning. So part of it's freeing them from slavery, then giving them the Torah, then giving them rest on Shabbat, But what we say is, even if he'd only given one of those things, if it had only been freeing from slavery, Dayenu would have been enough. If only the Torah, Dayenu. So that's what this song is about. And it's such a traditional part. I wanted you to hear it too. And it kind of is done in a sing-along. So let's see how that goes.
Okay, I'm gonna mute everybody. And then as a warning, the song will be stuck in your head for days, just so you know. But it's worth it. And here we go.
It sounds like this. We'll start with the chorus. We just say die, die, enu. Die, die, enu. Die, die, enu. Die, die, enu. Die, enu, die, enu. Sing it with me. Die, die, enu. Die, die, enu. Yeah, you got it. Die, die, enu. Die, enu, die, enu. Ilu hotzi, hotzianu, hotzianu mi Mitzrayim, hotzianu mi Mitzrayim, die, enu. Sing it with me now. Die, die, enu. Die, die, enu. Die, die, enu. Die, enu, die, enu. Ilu natan, natan lanu, natan lanu et Torah, natan lanu et Torah, die. You got the hang of it. Die, die, enu. That sounds good. Die, die, enu. Die, die, enu. Die, enu, die, enu. Let's sing it again. Die, die, enu. Okay. Die, die, enu. Die, die, enu. Die, enu, die, enu. Ilu natan, natan lanu, natan lanu et hashabat, natan lanu et hashabat, die. All right, come on, guys, sing it nice and loud. Die, die, enu. Die, die, enu. Yeah. Die, die, enu. Die, enu, die, enu. One more time. Die, die, enu. Die, die, enu. Die, die, enu. Die, enu, die, enu. Bum, ba, ba, da, ba, dum. Oh, I didn't hear anyone. Bum, ba, ba, da, ba, dum. Bum, bum. Nice.
Oh, that just helps us get over the plagues. Dayenu. We can sing together. Dayenu, Dayenu, Dayenu. So the song could go on forever, and it does have lots of verses because God has blessed us in so many ways. Even as we're remembering the suffering of the Egyptian people, our ancestors, and so many other groups throughout the ages and today, we must remember all the goodness we have been given, all how we are loved, and each of us is a child of God. So we could each just think, maybe we should just, what are the things, Dayenu, what is it enough today? Let's just name, unmute us again, and let's hear some of the things that we can give praise and thanks for today.
Okay, unmuted everybody.
The sun is still shining. Dayenu.
Dayenu.
Dayenu. We have family, beautiful children in our presence. Dayenu.
We have food and shelter.
Ah, food and shelter. Dayenu. And wine. Dayenu.
Amen.
Us are healthy.
We are healthy. Dayenu.
We have homes.
We have homes. Dayenu.
The beauty of the cherry blossoms.
Oh, Dayenu.
The spring is here. Dayenu.
Dayenu.
Beautiful weather.
Dayenu. Dayenu, Dayenu, Dayenu. Thank you. All right. We'll go back to our door, to the Haggadah. Because we're going to have our second cup of trust and dialogue. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, free Haggadah. Amen. Praise be you, O Spirit of the universe, who creates the fruit of the vine. So now we're going to drink this partially filled cup, remembering the spilled drops, remembering the pain that humans experience at the hands of another. And we know that trust begins as we come to know one another. It takes more courage to make peace. than to make war. L'chaim. And now we're going to do the matzah.
But don't eat all the matzah. You'll need some later.
You'll eat some later. Yes, we're going to have little tastes shortly. And anyone who knows the prayer can say it with me. Baruch atah Adonai, Halam, lechem min haaretz. Baruch atah Adonai, Halam,
asher kirshanu b'mitzvotav b'tzivanu alach matzah.
Okay, great. So let me see. Who hasn't read yet? Has everyone read? Did I miss?
I don't think Samir's read.
Oh, great, Samir, it's your
I
turn.
haven't offered because the kids are here and they often require attention. But yeah, which part am I reading? The praise to be dispensed?
The matzah. The matzah is to remind us.
The matzah is to remind us that before the dough, which our foremothers prepared for bread, had time to ferment, they had to leave the country. The Torah says, make matzah of the unleavened dough, which they had brought out of Egypt. For it had not leavened because they were thrust out of Egypt and could not linger, nor had they prepared any food for the journey. On Passover, we remove all signs of chametz from the household to help us eliminate all the unnecessary empty things we fill and puff ourselves up with, which keep us enslaved.
So I'll pause there. So chametz is anything in your house, like rice or certain cereals or bread, any of those things. You'd have to, in fact, if you were in a real Jewish neighborhood, there'd be people out in their alleys burning it. And I know I was in Israel once, and you could see all these little fires in the alleys where they were burning their chametz. You have to clean it until even with a feather, you wouldn't find a grain. And some people, there's a tradition that you pack up all the goods in your house and give them to your neighbor and then buy it back from them again after the holiday. So there's some traditions around all of this. So I'm sorry, Samir, Samir. Chamir. No, Samir, please continue.
Our eating of the matzah for the 8 days of Passover becomes a meditation. Matzah is the bread of affliction, a symbol of poverty and the precariousness of our lives. To flee from Mitzrayim, we must be humble. We must be humble, like the matzah, without chametz. Empty of the puffed up places of inflated ego, which creates the narrow places.
So we've now blessed it, so you could take a little taste of the matzah if you like. Of course, especially when everyone's gathered for dinner, by now it's like, when are we going to eat? So these little opportunities are very, very appreciated.
And actually, I just want to break in quickly to say I'm aware it is almost 7. So I'm sorry, this is continuing longer than we thought. We were trying to estimate how to make it go shorter. So anyone who has to leave early, that's totally understandable. And thank you, and I'm sorry because I am mindful of the time. The next parts do go a little bit faster, but I am sorry about that. That's my fault.
Yeah, I think we're getting pretty close, but yeah, we didn't know with all that singing, but I think it was worth it. So we're looking some more at the Seder plate, and on the plate, this is actually not a shank bone because I don't eat lamb, and usually I'd have a baked beet because I'm vegetarian, but this is a chicken bone. So it's something about the shank bone or beet. So let's see, who hasn't read? Have you read yet? Would you read about the shank bone?
Wait, who?
Amy Seiler? She's not her, I don't see her, but her name is there. And if not her, how about Christina Lee?
Okay. The shank bone or beet tradition directs us to hold up a roasted lamb bone, which is symbolic of the animal sacrifice prior to the Exodus. The Hebrew word for Passover, how do you say it? Sorry?
Pesach.
Pesach.
Pesach
Where's that?
refers to the sacrifice of the lamb, which the Jewish people shared on the night of the 10th and final plague. It is represented on our Seder plate with beet instead of a lamb shank bone, because we want all of God's creatures to be liberated.
That would be my usual when I had access to it, so forgive me. Let's see, who else? Marie, are you there?
I am here, yes.
Okay, would you like to read the next 2 paragraphs?
Sure. Moses told the people to slaughter the paschal lambs they had taken into their homes. And all the aggregate community of Israel shall slaughter it at twilight, and you shall take its blood and smear it on the doorposts of your slave huts. Exodus chapter 6, verse 7. We smeared blood on the front doors so the angel of death would pass over our houses during that terrible night. But did God not know whose house belonged to whom? No, that wasn't it. It was not a sign for God, it was a sign for the slaves. It was a choice for them, a crisis of identity, an unequivocal deed that could not be ignored, reconsidered, or postponed. The Egyptians know, come tomorrow, its blood will be on our door. We leave with Moses, or they will surely kill us.
Interesting. So it really took a stand of courage on that Passover night. So I think we're back towards the beginning. So Cynthia, would you read the rest of this section, please?
A slave who can take a stand is no longer a slave. If we are afraid to take a risk, to move out of complacency, then we may not leave with Moses. If our fear wins, we can't actually be free. The Hebrew word for sacrifice is choban, which comes from the root meaning near. What we must sacrifice in order to come nearer to our highest spiritual selves.
Wow. So what might we, if we want to be liberated, what might we need to give up? But I don't know if we want to take a little time for this. We'll keep it short because I know we're running a little late, but it's an important piece to think about. I don't know if anyone
I would like to let go of how I think things should be.
Thank you.
I'd like to let go of fear. I'd like to let go of fear and move forward with my prayers and with trying to bring people together to pray.
Letting go of judgment.
I would have to let go of perfectionism, expecting especially of myself, and the self-consciousness that goes along with that.
Letting go of the illusion of control.
I'd like to let go of trying to make everyone happy, because it's not really possible anyway.
I'd like to let go of overwhelm and inertia.
Yeah. I like to let go of feeling that in everything I do has to have meaning and service, and to just release and be at ease and in peace with what is in the moment. So please keep these questions in your heart, all of this. Hopefully it's not just during this service, but we'll stay with you. We have, in the tradition, it's an 8-day holiday, and we are reminded of it because you would only be eating matzah and no bread for 8 days. We have some good recipes. You can scramble it with eggs. It's pretty yummy matzah brie. Anyway, it's a long time by the end, especially when you're a school-age kid and all your friends have peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and all you have is matzah. Okay, Kathy, let's go back to the text.
Okay, I muted everybody else. Sorry about the noise. It's 7 o'clock here in Vancouver. So the noise is that people bang on pots and pans for the nurses and doctors. And Inara was so excited about it last night that she actually broke my favorite wooden spoon. She was banging stuff so hard. Really quite lovely. So I'm sorry, that's what that background noise is.
We do it every night. We've only done it like once so far.
No, every night. It's really sweet.
That's really sweet. I love that. So now some of you who've been to Seders may have been wondering, why is there an orange on the Seder plate? So Jacqueline, would you please read about the orange?
In our own days, as in the ancient days of our people, an event becomes a story becomes a legend, and a legend becomes a lesson. So it is with the orange on the Seder plate. The symbol of the orange was first adopted by women's groups in their Passover celebration during the 1970s, which was where the first feminist Seders celebrating the woman's role in Jewish life. The orange was mistakenly said to be inspired by a comment made during a speech given at the synagogue by the Jewish scholar Susan Heschel, daughter of the civil rights activist Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, in reference to the recent ordination of the first Reformed woman rabbi. A man in the audience was said to make the remark, "A woman belongs in the bima, the platform from which the Torah is read, as much as an orange belongs on the Seder plate." To which Heschel responded, "Women bring to the bishma what an orange would bring to the Seder plate, transformation, not transgression." Heschel essentially corrected this myth by explaining that she first placed the orange on the plate to represent the gays and lesbians excluded from Jewish religious community. She said, "We would spit out the seeds in solidarity with homosexuals. The seeds represented homophobia. So today we include the orange in honor of the inclusion of all our sisters and brothers, queer, trans, non-binary, and straight, because everyone can bring transformation to a community."
Want our traditions to grow. Times change, we learn, we grow, and so the traditions do. Okay, so now we're going to learn.
And now you can eat both the orange, and I'm sorry that the instructions weren't clear before, because you also eat the beet from before, because I got a question about that. So sorry for the confusion.
Oh, no, we don't usually eat the beet, actually, but you
Oh,
could.
you don't?
You can do whatever you like. Yeah, we don't.
Okay. Sorry. Well, that makes sense. You can't eat a chicken bone.
Do whatever you want with the orange. There's no tradition because it's not usually on the Seder plate. But if you want to have that orange, go for it. But soon we're going to be eating bitter herbs. This is the maror. And who would like another turn to read? Paulina, would you like to read? I can't hear you.
Let's see. Nope, I'm not muted. Can you hear me now?
Now we can.
Okay. Next, we have maror, which symbolizes the bitterness of slavery. In Exodus, we read that the Egyptians ruthlessly imposed upon the Israelites the various labors that they made them perform. Ruthlessly, they made life bitter for them with harsh labor at mortar and bricks, which hardened their hearts, and with all sorts of tasks, which increased their mindlessness in the field. And that's Exodus 1:13. The Hebrew word translated ruthlessly can also be translated as with smooth words. Slavery can be seductive. We can be sucked in with smooth words, golden handcuffs, until we forget the importance of our own freedom. Then we tell ourselves we have no choice but to continue on with things the way they are.
That sure resonates, and we're having a cessation from all of that, and maybe we're all realizing what the golden handcuffs were.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We in my community's Haggadah, we read a quote from Tubman that I could have freed so many more if they knew that they were slaves.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Does somebody else want to continue, or?
Yeah, how about, who would like to read? Just unmute yourself and go for it.
One of the most radical messages of the Torah is that cruelty is not destiny. Though we tend to treat others the way that we ourselves have been treated, the message of the Torah is that the chain of pain can be broken. that we do not have to pass on to others what was done to us. Some of the most frequently repeated injunctions in Torah are variants on the command, when you come into your land, do not oppress the other, the stranger. Remember that you were the other in the land of Egypt.
Oh, if we could remember this, Dayenu, Dayenu, Dayenu.
Seriously.
Keep going, please.
In fact, the Torah goes further and makes it an absolute categorical command. Thou shalt love the other. How can we bring this message into our hearts and actions? How do we bring this spirit to our leaders and the policies of our governments? How can we create an oasis of peace and justice for all?
So I know the time is getting late, but if you feel inspired, you're welcome to add into the chat. But I think we'll just keep moving along. Does that sound okay, Kathy?
Yes, I think that's a good idea.
Okay, but if you have some inspiration, please do enter it into the chat and we'll all see that. So now it's going to be time to eat the bitter herbs. So those could be traditionally, and I was really lucky to find raw, whole horseradish. So this is fresh horseradish. Sometimes we just have the paste that you get in a jar. But if it's some bitter herb, so if all you had in your house was salsa or hot sauce, that's okay. Some kind of bitter herb that we're now going to bless. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu chelat maror. We praise the unity of the universe and the goodness of eating bitter herbs. So take some of the bitter herb and it can make your eyes sting.
Don't take all of it. You'll need more later.
Oh, you'll need more later. Just one piece now. Woo! Oh my goodness. My sinus. All right. All right. Who would like to read about the charoset?
I will.
Great.
Charoset. You ask, why do we eat bitter herbs? To remind us of the bitterness of slavery. May its harsh taste persuade us to refrain from imposing suffering on ourselves and others. Yet we also dip bitter herbs into charoset, a mixture that reminds us of the mixture of clay and straw that our ancestors used to make bricks to build the pyramids. Yet charoset is sweet, like the taste of freedom and justice. This reminds us that in the bitterest times of slavery, our people have always remembered the sweet taste of freedom. Today, we can consider how the symbol of mortar can represent the new structures we are attempting to build in our lives, new structures to enhance the world. Perhaps this is a new meditation practice, an exercise regime, bonding activities we have committed to do together as a family, or the various ways we are currently trying to help out in the community. Life is bittersweet. The sweet taste of charoset impresses upon us that no matter how bitter and dark the present appears, we can hopefully look forward to better days.
May it be so. So now you can take your bitter herbs and eat it with a little of the sweet charoset. In fact, we're going to make a Hillel sandwich. Dave and Sally, would caught you in mid-bite there. Do you want to read about the Hillel sandwich? You're muted.
Okay.
There we go. I got you.
Okay. Okay. Hillel sandwich. To the sage Hillel, eating matzah and maror together was not a trivial matter. To him, slavery and freedom were merged into one historical event. The bread of poverty became the bread of freedom and should be tasted together with the bitter maror, so that one should know the bitterness of slavery and the joy of freedom. In times of freedom, we must not forget the bitterness of slavery. In times of oppression, we must keep alive the hope of freedom.
So as we eat this, if we can remember the sweetness of eating together, all in the same table, and the hard times right now of this plate. And some of you, yes, it's a little weird. Okay. Mm. Mm.
Y'all okay? I see a lot of deep breathing happening.
It's intense. My eyes are tearing. I think my friend who's usually here slices it a lot thinner. Okay, now, olives are also not typically on the table, but we, in my tradition, we add them. So Carolyn and Greg, would you like to read about the olives, please?
Sure. Glasses or not. Okay. Why have we added olives to the Seder plate? The olive branch is a universal symbol of peace, associated with the dove in the story of Noah's Ark and the flood. They are also the symbol of our Palestinian sisters and brothers. Olive trees mature slowly, so only when there was an extended time of peace, with agriculture left undisturbed, could the olive tree produce its fruit.
This year, we have olives on our Seder plate to remind us that not only are we not free until everyone is free, but we are not free until there is peace in our homes, in our community, in Palestine and Israel, and in our world, in all our forests and deserts.
So if you have an olive, enjoy one with that in mind. And then lastly, we have on the Seder plate, the hard-boiled egg known as betzah. Who would like to read about that? Great.
Oh,
please.
Thank you.
It is customary to begin the meal with a hard-boiled egg. First, unlike most foods, which become softer the longer they are boiled, the egg becomes harder. This indicates the resistance of the Jews and all oppressed peoples to those who seek to crush them. Secondly, the egg is regarded as the symbol of new life. A chick must break its egg to emerge into life. Finally, the hard-boiled egg is a reminder of the lambs that were sacrificed at the temple of old. And so we eat the egg to remind us of the destruction of the temple.
So traditionally, we also dip that into the salt water, which is our tears, and enjoy the hard-boiled egg. So this is the point at which we would have the dinners. You can see why we needed all those snacks all along. But there is a little part to the service that comes after. But if people are going to hang in there for another maybe 10 minutes, maybe we should at least take a 3-minute bio break and stand up and stretch.
And thank you everybody who's held on this long. So
Yeah.
I hope this is okay. It's very long, so we don't want to cut anything, but I hope everyone's having a really good time.
Yeah? Next time we'll know how long it takes. We didn't know. But there's not very much left, just a little bit, another glass of wine and another song or two, and a funny thing to do. So if you want to take a little break while you eat your egg, you could have a little more of your juice or wine, and then we can start up again in just a couple minutes because it's hard to sit for such a long time. And now we're ready to come back. And remember that afikomen, by now the children would have found it. And they would bring it back to us. And there's just a few more things we need to complete for the meal. So who would like to read about the afikomen?
I can do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dad.
Afikomen, take and eat. We have feasted in freedom and in joy. We have eaten virtually with family and friends. As we conclude our feast, we must remember that we cannot live by bread alone. We survive because we choose to live. We survive because others choose to help us live. The afikomen is our final dessert. It is the matzah we set aside to be the last food of our Passover supper. When we eat it, let us remember the source of our life and our future celebratory time together.
So if you kept a little piece of that afikomen, this would be the time if we were all together, we'd cut it, we'd break it, and each person would get a little piece of it. So I'm sharing this with each of you. That was your piece, and this is mine. And there's a big song. Oh my goodness, this we'd be singing this whole long hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. But I don't know how to lead it. Only my friend, it's her family's thing that we do this big long Birchat Hamazon. But we will spare ourselves that, but we at least want to have grace after the meal. So who would like to read that? The Birchat Hamazon. Please, Kalina. But unmute. You're muted.
Blessed.
Go, I unmuted you.
Can you hear me? Oh, okay. Blessed are you, Adonai, the spirit of the whole universe, who nourishes the entire world with your goodness, with grace, with kindness, and with mercy, who gives nourishment to all because your kindness is forever. Through this enormous kindness, mercy, and compassion, all existence is forever sustained, forever present, goodness filling all time and space. There is sustenance for all, none need ever lack. No being want for food. Blessed are you, Adonai, who is always present and sustaining all. Amen.
Amen. There is enough. May we find the way when we share. There is enough for all. Hallelujah. Time for the cup of hope, the third cup. So there's going to be even one more. The heart opens as we leave the constriction of our Egypts. So hopefully we're feeling ourselves more liberated. With this third cup, we risk the journey that extends beyond this moment. We seek to open our hearts enough so that we can trust new visions and dreams. So that's really challenging right now in this time of the pandemic. May there be hope.
May there be hope.
And many of you in your traditions also know the prophet Elijah. And the Haggadah opens with the words you might remember when I said, let all who are hungry come and eat. And among those who we expect to come, tradition says that Elijah, who in fact never died but was carried up to the heavens, shows up at every table. So this always amazed me as a child. We fill Elijah's cup, and then we open the door for Elijah, and I swear to God, as a child, you know that glass went down. Really amazing and magic. Who would like to read about Elijah here?
I will.
Sandy, please.
Elijah, the prophet, challenged the injustice of kings and overthrew the worship of foreign gods. He healed the humble, sick, and helped the widowed. In Jewish tradition, Elijah is the champion of the oppressed. He brings hope, cheer, and relief to the downtrodden. He performs miracles of rescue and deliverance. This man of mystery became associated with the time of the Messiah, the end of days, when all is healed and peace fills the worlds. Hence, he has a place in every Seder. It is said of Elijah, he will turn the hearts of parents to their children and the hearts of children to their parents. He is the messenger of good tidings of joy and peace. Elijah is the part in each of us that knows respect for fundamental human rights, cannot remain an ideal, but rather something we work towards every day as a requisite foundation for each and every person's life we can impact.
So read Havel while I go and open my door to let Elijah in.
Hope is a deep orientation of the human soul that can be held in the darkest of times. Traditionally, we now open the door. There's the legend that Elijah appears at every Seder and sips from the cup reserved for him. If the children are very observant, they may notice that by the end of the meal, there's a little less wine or grape juice in Elijah's cup.
Wow. Blessed is he who comes. So when we hear this song, that it's another song, this is why it's so long. I can't do a Seder without hearing this song. It's so tender and sweet now that you hear who Elijah is, the bringer of all hope. Plus, we traditionally sing this song at Haggadah, which is as the Sabbath ends, and Haggadah is the break into now, and it is just about Haggadah because it's Saturday. Shabbat is about ending, the sun's going down. So Sabbath, the sweet presence of the holy blessed day of the Queen of the world, of Shekhinah, we have to say goodbye, which is a very tender time. So we always sing this song, and so we're gonna listen. That'll be one more song, and then we're really close to the end.
Eliyahu Anavi, Eliyahu Atishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi, Bimera ve'yameinu, Yavo Eleinu, Moshiach ben David, Moshiach ben David, Eliyahu Anavi, Eliyahu Atishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Agiladi. Eliyahu Anavi, Eliyahu Atishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu Hagiladi, Bimera. At the end.
Thank you. I'm so happy to have heard that. We would always, at Havdalah, you have this special candle. It has 3 pieces to it. I could show it to you. I suppose I think I have one here. And we would all be standing in a circle together, and we would light that candle. And we pass around a box of scent, like it has cinnamon scent or something that smells really good, spices, and everyone gets to smell that to bring sweetness to the new week. And then this bright candle is doused in the wine, and we're in dark, and then we sing that song. And we're all holding each other and swaying together. So as we say goodbye to the Queen of Shabbat, the Shekhinah, and enter into our regular week. So, but even in just the Seder, even if it's not on the Sabbath, we sing that song. All right, the 4th and final cup. Who would like to read this? Kathy, why don't you read it? Oh, somebody was ready.
Yeah, here, that's me, Samir.
Oh, good, go for it.
Okay. With this last cup, we affirm the vision of a time when Palestinians and Jews shall no longer raise arms against one another, but rather shall abandon war and create together a new order, when both Canada and the United States will act to spread peace and freedom without violence or oppression, when nations everywhere will turn swords into plowshares.
Can I add, when every nation will share masks and tests and help each other and lift each other up?
Okay. We pray that this day will hasten in coming, and all people will know true peace, a time of harmony built on individual tranquility with the acceptance and appreciation of one another. We pray that all will rejoice in political, economic, intellectual, and spiritual freedom that arises from creative chaos, patience, compassion, and love. Let us drink the last cup together.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen, to peace, to life, l'chaim. And I don't know, do we have the strength to do Haggadah?
Yes, we have to do Haggadah.
We have to, okay, good.
I was very happy. Susan's letting me do Haggadah. So this is a long and silly song. And the way I've seen it done, so it adds on to itself like a children's song. So we'll be doing that as we go. So I'll explain it, and then I'd like us all to do the parts of it because it makes it more fun. So Haggadah is a Hebrew phrase meaning one kid, where kid in this case means a baby goat. This Passover song chronologically describes all the empires throughout Jewish history that have occupied the land of Israel, all of whom one by one have been destroyed by successive empires, with the Jewish nation at the bottom, symbolized by the baby goat. According to one popular interpretation, the kid symbolizes the oppressed Jewish people, which has been bought by the father, God, for 2 coins, Moses and Aaron. The subsequent players in the ballad represent the nations who persecuted the Jewish people over the centuries. The devouring cat represents Assyria, the dog, Babylon, the stick represents Persia, the fire, Macedonia, the water is Rome, the ox, the Saracens, the shochet, ritual slaughter, the Crusaders, and the angel of death, the Turks who subsequently ruled Palestine. The purpose of this song is to teach that every evildoer, no matter how strong, will eventually suffer the consequences of their actions at the hands of God. So this is making it sound very dark, but the way I've seen people celebrate it, which I really like, is so as we're going, we're going to act out the different parts. So we're going to get to be a goat and a hungry cat and a dog and a stick and fire and all that stuff. It's going to be very fun. And you're going to have to listen to me sing, so I apologize. But that's how we're going to do it. So, and just try to have fun with it. This is the last song of the Seder, and it's near the very end. Haggadah, Haggadah, one small goat. Ah! Haggadah, Papa bought for 2 zuzim, one small goat. Ah! Haggadah, Haggadah, a hungry cat. Meow. Ate up the goat. Ah! The Papa bought for 2 zuzim. Haggadah, Haggadah. Then came a dog, woof, and bit the cat, meow. That ate the goat, ah. The Papa bought for 2 zuzim. Haggadah, Haggadah. Then came a stick and beat the dog, woof, woof. That bit the cat, meow. That ate the goat, ah. The Papa bought for 2 zuzim. Haggadah, Haggadah. Then came a fire and burnt the stick. That beat the dog, woof. That bit the cat, meow. That ate the goat, ah. The Papa bought for 2 zuzim. Haggadah, Haggadah. Then water came and quenched the fire and burnt the stick. That beat the dog, woof. That bit the cat, meow. That ate the goat, ah. The Papa bought for 2 zuzim. Haggadah, Haggadah. Then came an ox and drank the water that quenched the fire, that burnt the stick, that beat the dog, woof, that bit the cat, meow, that ate the goat, rah, that Papa bought for 2 zuzim. Haggadah, Haggadah. The butcher came and slew the ox, rah, that drank the water, that quenched the fire, that burnt the stick, that beat the dog, woof, that bit the cat, meow, that ate the goat, meow, that Papa bought for 2 zuzim. Haggadah, Haggadah. Then came death and took out the butcher, that slew the ox, that drank the water, that quenched the fire, that burnt the stick, that beat the dog, woof, that bit the cat, meow, that ate the goat, The Papa bought for 2 zuzim. Haggadah, eternity dissolves the death that took the butcher, that slew the ox, that drank the water, that quenched the fire, that burnt the stick, that beat the dog, woof, that bit the cat, meow, that ate the goat, that Papa bought for 2 zuzim. Haggadah, 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 Haggadah. Thank you all for putting up with that. That was very fun. And it was great seeing your faces and your impersonations.
It's great. Oh, well, now we're ready for the conclusion for Nirtza. Now our Seder is completed, each custom and law fulfilled, as we gathered to celebrate a virtual Seder this day. May we be worthy in freedom next year, again to celebrate a Seder, but maybe next time together in peace. So we can say this all together. Next year, in a shared and safe Jerusalem. Next year, may everyone in Jerusalem and its environs
truly be free,
at peace with themselves
and each other. Next year,
may we all
be free and healthy
and
at peace.
Amen.
Amen.
L'chaim, amen.